I'm Phil Heimlich, and we call this the Radical Middle. If you can follow me on Facebook, Instagram, X, or YouTube, there's a bunch of you that have kind of criticized me for not being balanced. You say things like, "Why are you always against Donald Trump? Why don't you criticize the Democrats for a change?" Now, others have said, "Well, you call this the radical middle, but you're not in the middle. You're only on one side." Well, let me explain first what I mean by the radical middle. It doesn't mean being a moderate or even being in the middle. What it means is the freedom to be a truth teller, regardless whether the view is extreme or not, or whether the view is considered left wing or right wing. I actually consider myself a conservative Republican in the way Ronald Reagan was. Reagan, was a former Democrat, and he once said, "I didn't leave the Democratic Party, they left me." That's exactly how I feel about today's MAGA-led Republican Party. They're no longer for free trade. They don't support law and order. They don't support balanced budgets. What's worse is our president doesn't stand up to dictators like Reagan did. In fact, he's more chummy with Russia than with our Democratic allies. And of course, we have the Putin wing of Congress that goes along with them. My response when people say, "Why are you always against Trump?" is that he lies almost every time he opens his mouth. He tried to violently overthrow our government, and he gives every indication that he doesn't care about the Constitution, nor does he care about the rights that we hold dear, such as freedom of speech and the rule of law. Comparing his conduct and his character with other politicians of either party is a false equivalence. It's as if you said, "Hey, why do you always criticize Vladimir Putin? Why don't you speak out against the other side?" Well, because Vladimir Putin invaded a democratic ally and is responsible for 1 million casualties in Ukraine. And who is the other side? The Russians who oppose him, who end up poisoned, dying in a gulag, or thrown out a window? The senior pastor at Crossroads Church, Brian Tome, once said that God doesn't want us to be balanced. He wants us to stand up for what's right, and that is what I am trying to do. I'm Phil Heimlich, and this is the Radical Middle.